My name is P.K. Bhavana, 3rd DC English. I am going to read the poem Africa written by Maya Angelou. Thus she had lain, sugar-cane sweet, deserts her hair, golden her feet, mountains her breasts, 2 Niles her tears. Thus she has lain, black through the years. Over the white seas, rime, white and cold, brigands, ungentled, icicle bold. Took her daughters, sold her strong sons, charged her with Jesus, bled her with guns. Thus she has slain. Now she is rising. Remember her pain. Remember the losses, her screams loud and vain. Remember her riches, her history slain. Now she is striding, although she had lain. Now let's talk about the author and the poem. Maya Angelou was an African-American poet, prose writer, civil rights activist, playwright, and singer. She was the cultural icon of the Black American literary and resistance culture. Angelou's political and emotional vibrancy as a survivor makes the readers across the world who lived through the exploitative racism, casteism, patriarchy, and class contradictions identify with her writings. Her autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, is a good instance of her encounter with all these social contradictions. She was traumatized by rape at the very early age of 8 and refused to speak for 5 years. She returned to speech through reading and reciting literature. Like Langston Hughes, Maya was also influenced by her grandmother, whose determination in facing racism, sexism, and poverty of the 1930s was inspiring. She was made the first Reynolds Professor of American Studies at Wake Forest University. She is also one of the most anthologized Black American poets. The poem Africa recounts in 25 lines, split into 3 stanzas with integrated imagery and metaphors, the devastation of a continent by aggressive European colonial manipulations. The first stanza presents Black African continent in the metaphor of a huge, phenomenal woman of physical appeal. The second one, however, tells a different story of the white plunderers, human traffic, conversion, gun, and rape. It alludes to the violent cultural and material history of African colonization. The 2 stanzas together sum up the past of Africa, indeed a violent shift from the pastoral to the colonial. The concluding stanza presents the rising Africa screaming to the world of readers to recall and remember the slain history of the land and peoples. The slain history of Africa comes alive through reading, and the poem does its ideological function of generating a counter-narrative to colonial view that Africa has no history of its own. The focus being the shared history of colonial cultural domination of the entire continent, the poem ends up creating a homogeneous Africa. This is justifiable too as a counter-narrative to condemnation of Africa as the continental scale. There is the psychological and political need for the reconstitution of the epic history of Africa because, as Fanon asserts, their history has been distorted and destroyed. So, the space she creates as Africa in the poem is an emotional space, a site for struggle and reclamation of the Black identity in the face of colonial continental condemnation. Let's move on to the glossary. First one is laying, meaning lying or lying down. Brigands, meaning bandits, intruders, plunderers with weapons, robbing people and land. Ungentled, meaning harsh. Icicle bold, meaning cold and bold, callous and cruel. Churched, meaning noun adapted into verb, indicates conversion of tribes. History slang, meaning colonial manipulations of histories. Striding, meaning walk with strong decisive steps. Let's move on to the questions. Roman number 1. Answer in 2 or 3 sentences each. Number 1. What is the metaphor with which the poem begins? Question number 2. What is problematic about the metaphor of Africa as a woman? Question number 3. Does this metaphor suggest a phenomenal woman? How? Question number 4. Compare Angelou's Black Africa with the colonial label Dark Continent. Question number 5. Why does Maya Angelou use the phrase brigands ungentled? Question number 6. What particular aspect is conveyed through the phrase icicles bold? Question number 7. Comment on the phrase churched with Jesus. Question number 8. What are the 2 kinds of violence indicated through churched and blood? Question number 9. What happens to a country when sons and daughters are lost? Roman number 2. Answer in 80 to 100 words. Question number 1. What are the features of pre-colonial Africa Maya Angelou imagined? Question number 2. Why did Maya Angelou prefer to render the colonial encounter in the vocabularies of rape? Question number 3. The shift from first stanza to the second stanza involves untold tales of violence. Elucidate. Question number 4. What is Africa rising for? Roman number 3. Answer in 200 to 250 words. Question number 1. Discuss the imposing features of the poem Africa. Question number 2. Maya Angelou poem can be described as the biography of Africa. Discuss. Question number 3. The use of the extended metaphor and the device of personification are Angelou's way of rejecting the colonial imagination of Africa as a dark continent of lesser humans. Discuss. Question number 4. Angelou is reconstructing the history of Africa from the victim's point of view. Elaborate. Roman number 4. Read, relate and write. Question number 1. Why is Maya Angelou so much concerned about the past, present and future of Africa? Question number 2. Maya Angelou's poem Africa can be better understood if it is juxtaposed with a poem by the same writer. Justify. Question number 3. Literature often helps a person to empathize with someone or something distant in space and time. Such cultural gestures, shaped by sharing experiences, bind colonized cultures together in the process of decolonization. Discuss how N.V. Krishna Varyar's poem Africa makes a strong statement against colonial enslavement and plunder of Africa. Give close attention to these lines. Trans. Professor K.V. Ramakrishnan from the autobiography N.V. Krishna Varyar is the series makers of Indian literature. Were human hands are in chains, there my hands ache. Where there is torture, there the blow falls on my back. Where men struggle to rise, there verily I live. Today, this Africa is my country. I weep with her grief. Question number 4. Read this note on K. Kannur's book. Keralathile Africa is a travelogue by Kannur Kannur shedding light on the condition of the tribal people in Wayanad. Written in 1963. From his experiences in official capacity, Kannur detailed the miserable state of bonded labor in the plantations. The government of Kerala ordered a ban and confiscated the copies of the book. O. Koran, member of the Kerala Legislative Assembly representing Neeleshwaram constituency, once tabled the book on the floor of the House during a heated discussion on land reforms policy. Keralathile America and Sahiyatte Makkal.